Here we go. Hello, I'm Ragan.
And I'm Nate.
And welcome to, I got a new PowerPoint for this one. Hold on. A little bit anticlimactic here. Hold on. So you want to lead a party?
Ooh.
Yes, and I have a dragon courtesy of Vimeo.com. This was created by Jonathan Simmons. Yes, so
Very nice.
It is a dragon flying. All right, and as soon as this is done, there is the website for where you got it from, because I want to make sure that I acknowledge I did not do that. Nate did not do that.
Nope.
I don't even know how to begin to do that. All right, so today on So You Want to Lead a Party? We decided.
That's our salute.
Yep. So you want to lead a party? We decided to go with heads of state, not just politicians for this one. So, welcome to the fray, Her Royal Highness Queen Elizabeth I. She ruled from 1558 to 1603. She was the last of the Tudor monarchs. She had a longer reign than her siblings. Mary, also sometimes known as Bloody Mary, because she was very, very strict Catholic. But once you understand her upbringing, you kind of understand why she did some of the things that she did. And I cannot remember the brother's name.
I'm blanking on it too.
Yeah, Henry's only surviving male heir. Basically, he did not want either of his sisters to rule because he knew that Mary would do some pretty interesting things. And also, there was a question of Elizabeth's legitimacy because Henry was still married to Catherine, but he got the divorce, but the divorce was not recognized by the Catholic Church, and that turned into a whole thing. So was he really allowed to marry Elizabeth's mother, Anne Boleyn, or not? So there's some legitimacy issues right there. But she did rule for 44 years.
Mm-hmm.
England's victory against the Spanish Armada in 1588 associated Elizabeth with one of the greatest military victories in English history, and also really brought England to the forefront of a superpower at that time. And the Navy at that time was like one of the most feared things in the known world. Well, in the world at that time. She created the foundation for the Church of England because, as I kind of touched on before, her sister Mary was persecuting any Protestants. And before that, I think her father was persecuting any Catholics. There was something so basically she had to have it upon herself to bring England back together. That time is known as the Elizabethan age, and it's considered the time of where theater flourished. We're talking about Shakespeare. Yes, Shakespeare. All right, our second person, President Abraham Lincoln, is actually really fascinating. There were some things that in my research I did not know. So he was a U.S. congressman for 2 years, and then he left politics and decided to go back to his law practice. But he came back into politics when he started to see that slavery was being expanded into more and more territories. And he was very much against slavery. So he basically said, you know what? I've got to come back into this and stop it. And he ran for president, won, and right then, the biggest war in American history, the Civil War. I think it was considered the bloodiest war in American history. I don't know which one is bloodier, the American Revolution or the Civil War. I think Civil War was bloodier.
More lives lost in the Civil War.
Right.
Yes.
It was very much brother against brother, sister against sister. You are talking about the states trying to secede because they were like, look, I'm not putting up with your crap anymore. But at the same time, it is the United States. And yeah, history does repeat itself. Welcome. He was assassinated at the beginning of his second term as president by an actor.
Yep.
So yeah, you kind of seeing where we're going with this one.
Mhm.
With this one. So
Not our finest moment.
not an entertainer's finest moment, but can we disclaim him because he was can we? Yeah, we can disclaim him. We can disclaim him. Yeah, we're gonna call him a want-to-be actor.
He was a failed actor.
Yes, he was a failed. Well, no. You can't say failed actor because there are some actors that haven't succeeded in their way of saying they succeeded. So we're going to say he tried. He tried to be an actor. I'm trying to be diplomatic.
You're being very charitable to.
I'm trying
to a murdering sociopath.
I know, very much a sociopath. That's what we'll call him. That's what we'll call him, a sociopath, not an actor. All right. So Nate and I talked about this, and we decided to take a step back and talk a little bit about how we create characters. So don't look at that. Nobody saw that. Nobody saw what was happening. Oh, it stopped. Ooh.
There it goes.
Screen sharing was like, no, we did not like that.
Power off.
Yep. Let's go back. All right. So let us go back to talking about how to create characters. We've talked about races and classes. So races, all of the races in D&D are humanoid, meaning that they're on two legs. So basically like this one, the Dragonborn, it looks like a dragon minus the wings on two legs. Now, later on, once they start to move up, they may gain wings. For example, one of our characters in one of our campaigns, she just gained wings.
Yes, she is an interesting case, actually.
Okay.
That's actually a class feature. We can talk about that later if you want.
Okay, so that's on me. I misunderstood. So that's a class feature. Okay, so something that I'm learning, as you can tell, I'm very new to this, and Nate has a little bit more experience with this.
I've only been playing for like 2 years.
Yeah, but you know more. You've done more research, and I really do need to do more research. There is a comic book store that I said go to get the books, and I still haven't gone. I'm going this week.
You have reasons, like.
Yeah, but also at the same time, I'm talking about D&D. I need to do some more research on D&D. Okay. So that is on me. Okay, but let's say, for example, you're looking at the Dragonborn. You'll notice further down, you'll see racial traits where it says a +2 in strength and a +1 in charisma. What that basically means, very long story, shortened as much as I possibly can, and what makes sense to me. Nate, interrupt me if I'm wrong. What that means is that these particular races were born with inherent specialties or inherent things that they're good at. So some of them excel in intelligence or wisdom, strength, charisma. You'll notice that for the elf, they have dark vision and keen senses. Now, the thing where it says trance, an elf doesn't actually have to go to sleep. And that helps in a campaign because in order to regain spell slots, and we'll talk a little bit about that, or in order to kind of heal or basically you got to sleep to be able to continue the job the next way. So you have things called short rest, which is like a quick little nap or just chill, right? Yeah, just chill for a little bit, or a long rest, which is about 8 hours. Elves are different because they don't have to go to sleep. So in 4 hours, they can basically get everything that a human or humanoid would get in 8 hours. So that makes them kind of interesting. So your races, this is what they look like. You've got gnomes, half elves, halflings, tieflings. We've talked about orcs. We've talked a little bit about some of these other ones like the Genasi or the Goliath, the Asimir, that was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Some of these are also what you would typically call villains, like the bugbear. Sometimes they are played as the NPCs or the bad guys, but you can also play them yourselves if you want to. Let's see. Right now we're in our campaign. We're in a fight against the kobolds. And
yes, kobolds are a minion of some of the bad guys we're fighting.
Yeah. So as you can see, there are quite a bit of races. Now, some of them you would see in your basic lineup, like I have on my DnD. Others you have to either like Nate does, where you're able to put them on your sheet. For me, for DnD, using the one that I have here, DnD Beyond, I actually have to buy that access to use that character when I'm creating it. The reason why I use DnD Beyond is because, again, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so did I miss anything quick about races?
Races, something interesting that, from my understanding, that just popped up is within the last year, actually, is the release of a new batch of material that Wizards of the Coast, the company that runs D&D, put out. They released a whole new source book, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything,
Yes.
which will allow you to essentially, it essentially doesn't lock you in the way these racial traits do in terms of the number bonuses.
Okay.
So if you decide to use the new rules in Tasha's, you can get say a half elf. A half elf usually has +2 to charisma and then +1 to 2 different scores of your choice.
Right.
For under the Tasha's rules, apparently, from my understanding, and I don't have the book and I haven't read it, but it seems to be that you can allocate those, if you use the Tasha's rules, you can allocate them however you want. So you can add a +2 to strength and a +1 to dexterity or constitution or whatever. So it's a kind of a way to decouple the idea of inherent racial traits from a kid's game, right?
Yeah, which again is where D&D is trying to be more
a little bit more progressive, maybe.
Yes, thank you. I could not think of a proper term for that did not become a euphemism for other people. But yeah, because it's sort of like saying in real life, oh, this race, they're really good at this particular subject, or this race, they're really good at this particular athletic skill. It's moving away from that because that is not how the world works. And D&D is not real world, but it is role playing. And so you want to kind of make it a little bit more open and freer for people and get out of that headspace of, no, you can only do this with this one particular group or race. Okay, so.
That was a lot, sorry.
No, this is awesome. So the next thing is class, and I'm probably going to get kicked out of the share. Nope, I didn't. Okay, so this one, as Nate had mentioned before when he was talking about wizards and sorcerers, these are classes. And with the classes, you're looking at primary ability. So like a barbarian has strength. So if I'm going to really match that strength that a barbarian has, I would probably choose a race like Dragonborn because they have that strength that can back up that class. So then I've just taken this character and made them even stronger, as it were. But the other great thing about D&D is that you don't have to match race with class. You play what the character you want to do and how you want them to be. Right now, I am matching races with classes because I want to see how far I can take these particular characters. But in other instances, I may walk away from that and do something completely different. That is my prerogative with this. So as again, I said that I'm very new at this. Nate was kind enough to tell me about RPG bot, not to be confused with RBG. Love you. Rest in power. I'm gonna miss you. Which gives me a lot of information of how some of these classes work and which races work with those classes, kind of thing.
There's a couple of sites like this, but I like this one.
Yeah. So I will be using this D&D Beyond, and then I need to go and pick up some of the D&D books because I do need to do a little bit more research about this. But this really came in handy because I'm just going to be honest with you, people. I went a little crazy with my Queen Elizabeth. Shall I show you my Queen
Yes, please.
Elizabeth? All right, so Queen Elizabeth. Okay, first off, let me go back to me because I like talking about me. I really love reading about World War II history, especially the women in World War II and how they made their way through a really difficult time in our history. I also like reading about the Tudor period. Queen Elizabeth, in fact, really many of those queens at that time were just off the chain amazing in the things that they had to face up against. Also, this time in history was interesting for the monarchy because that's when you have the other classes kind of looking at the monarchy like, do we really need you? That's when a lot of these questions started kind of popping up around. And then you also have the introduction of another religion coming in because pretty much everybody in European monarchy were Catholics. Now, all of a sudden, you have Martin Luther coming in and he's now questioning that. So things started pecking away at this time period. So going back to this, I wanted to choose someone that a race or a species that matched what I felt Queen Elizabeth was. And so I chose the Vidalcan. The Vidalcan have a +2 in intelligence, a +1 in wisdom. Now, really, you don't have any class that really uses both intelligence and wisdom at the same time, except for maybe the wizard. Maybe the wizard, but I did not go with a Vidalcan wizard for her. Now, why did I choose the Vidalcan? Well, they're dispassionate, and I'm not saying that Queen Elizabeth was dispassionate, but as a monarch, you cannot just fly off the handle. My understanding is that kind of what her dad did. She went kind of in a different way because she's again trying to reunite the country. Tireless precision. She was really about trying to create, or actually she was trying to protect England, bring England back to where it was a power, because the French were coming, the Spanish were coming, the Scottish were coming because the Scottish were married to the French and, you know, all this other. So there was a lot of powers coming at England at that time, and partially amphibious because of the Navy. So I made her a Vidalcan artificer.
Nice. Okay.
Now, the Artificer class. That is not a class for a newbie like me.
It's a lot.
It is so much. And let me show you how much it is and why I relied so heavily on RPG Bot. Now, as Nate was talking earlier about Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, I, on D&D Beyond, had to purchase the Vidalcan race and the Artificer class. So this was something new I never had to do before, and I could change the ability score increase. So this is what you were talking about before.
Yes.
Where I decide that instead of a +2 intelligence, +2 constitution, and instead of a +1 wisdom, a +1 dexterity.
Nice.
So that was very different for me, because before, in any of the other class of the races that I had, I never had to do that. And then I also had to choose origin proficiencies. So I chose Arcana and Navigator's Tools. Again, going back to the English Navy. And then I could choose languages. After that, that's when it got a little bit more complicated, because I made her a level 20. She was queen for 44 years. She gets to be a level 20.
Mm-hmm.
So where the Artificer becomes so much work is that first at level 1, you're dealing with their proficiencies. So you got to choose which of these proficiencies you're going to go with. And then also your supplies. Now, the thing is, supplies don't really mean anything unless you're talking about like thieves' tools or something like that. So
depends on the DM, from my understanding. Yeah.
So it's kind of a hit or miss kind of thing. The other thing is too, is that as you start moving up in your level, you're looking at what your team needs. And because we're not in a campaign right now with these characters, it's like, okay, I've got to choose this from the standpoint of this particular character. So you start infuse, it's the infusions that become really difficult. You've got 17 choices at level 2.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to choose which of these things that you're going to do, and it keeps coming level after level after level. What is your specialty? For her, I chose arterialist.
Nice.
Yes.
Magic guns.
Yes. Yes. Again, it's thinking about her and what she had to do as a monarch. So she really did have to physically protect England, not by herself, but through her military and things like that. So yeah, spells, ability scores, just it was a lot.
There's a lot of micromanagement with this class.
Very much a lot of micromanagement at pretty much every level. As you can see, it's like 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 14th. We skipped the 13th because 13 in this country is not lucky, but in other countries it's very lucky. And then it just keeps going on from there. Now, what got confusing for me was that RPG Bot stops at level 10. So past that, I was just like, I don't know what to do for this particular class. I don't do anything past level 10 for Artificer and RPG Bot.
I do know that website, he updates that that person updates that website as a hobby. Okay. So he might just be trying to put he might just be running updates, maybe.
So then you start getting into spells. So there are 24 prepared spells for just this one character. It is a lot of spells. And then just that by itself becomes problematic because let me show you here. Okay, so with this, you get 4 cantrips. Cantrips are the ones you don't have to worry about slots. You can just keep throwing them and throwing them however many times you want. After that, oh my goodness, I'd have slots for 5 more spells. Oh my gosh, I have spots for 5 more spells. So yes, so there are so many spells that you can choose. It can become quite confusing with this.
I had forgotten that artificers prepare their spells too, like clerics and wizards, so they can choose new spells at the start of each day.
Yes.
As opposed to bards, warlocks, and sorcerers, which just know their spells.
Right. Yeah. So you could pick and choose and change it every day. And then there's also the ability to replicate some of these magical items. So that too became problematic because I had to choose which magical items I wanted to replicate. All right. Yeah, that was a lot of information. And again, yes.
Can I confess something?
Confess.
I was this close to making Thatcher an artificer.
Yeah, because we had talked about that because she's a chemist.
Yeah, right. And then it scared me. So yeah.
You can see this one is scary. It's I do a standard array, which means that you only have so many choices. You can do something that's called a manual rolled, which is what Nate does with his characters, or you can do a point buy where you can just put in the points where you want everything. But again, it's within certain rules. I just went with standard array because by the time I was done with class, I was so done with trying to make choices. This is the character that took me the longest to create. Description, I pretty much stick with what that individual was. So I stick with their real life descriptions with this one. So of course she's a noble. So languages, I chose Celestial because monarchs are chosen by God. So that's why I went with Celestial. Her character details, things of that nature. I didn't choose an alignment with her, but what did I choose for her? I know I put these in here. I just can't remember where. Like I said, a lot of choices. So let's take a look at her fully on her sheet. Yeah, I'm just exhausted talking about this.
All those magic items.
It was so much. And here's where some of these magic items come into play. All right, as you can see, she has 203 hit points. And so 203 hit points basically means with an armor class of 19, one, it's difficult to hit her. And two, even if you do hit her, you would have to hit her so many times just to get her weakened. All right. So essentially, she's a tank. Mm-hmm. I maxed out her constitution and intelligence because the artificer class relies on the intelligence. Didn't focus too much on wisdom. Got dexterity because that helps with initiative. So here we go. She's got a few things with her, her pistol, longbow, and dagger. Where it starts to get really interesting is the Eldritch Cannon. This thing was insane.
Magical boom boom.
Yes. So essentially, she can create an Eldritch Cannon. And you have 2 cannons at a time and can't create one while your cannon is present. So she can only do this spell once per long rest. With that Eldritch Cannon, she can decide how she wants it to be used. It can detonate right there, and everybody within a 20-foot range right here has to do a dex save. The dex save has to be 19, which essentially means this. Odds are you're going to fail and you're going to get hit by three 8 die. So, okay, so the 8 die, it's the 8-sided die, and you get 3 of them and you roll them, add them together, and that is the damage.
I would have failed.
So first you have to see if you get a 19 or higher. Second, even if you do succeed on the throw, you still take half of the points of damage. All right, so she can decide if she wants it to detonate. She can decide if she wants it to be a flamethrower. She can decide if she wants it to, there's some other things that she can do with it. Flamethrower, force, ballista, which basically means it pushes you back, or protector, where it puts up a protection around your team. Now, you'll see here that even the cannon itself has hit points. So, and correct me if I'm wrong with this, Nate, that means that the enemy can roll against that cannon. And if it takes hits, it's still there until the hit points go down to 0.
Mm-hmm. Like that is how I think that is correct.
Yeah. Yes. Now you'll also see that it has an armor class of 18. So again, you would have to roll pretty high to hit the cannon successfully. And even if you hit the cannon successfully, it does not mean that it goes away. All right.
That's bonkers.
Right. That's just one of her many spells, and I'm not going to get into all the spells, but I want you to see a little bit about her spell slots. So the cantrips, firebolt, mage hand, mending, prestidigitation, she can do those as many times as she wants to. Here is where we get into the slots. So you'll see at level 1 she has 4 spell slots. So anytime she casts one of these, it takes a spell slot, meaning that she's used that and she only has 3 more left until she has her long rest. And again, remember, a long rest, depending on the race that you are, is anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. Then as she uses these other levels, she has more and more spells available, but less and less slots, because as she goes up in level, these spells become even more powerful. All right, so you see she's got so many spells to go through. Stone Shape was actually a really cool one. So Stone Shape, a lot of times in D&D, you're going into a stone building or a castle or whatever, or something like that. With Stone Shape, she can manipulate the stone to her advantage. All right, so let's say if you watch The Witcher or anything like that, let's say that she's going into Calanthe's castle and she's trying to get around a corner. She can move the stone so that she can make like another entrance somewhere, if I read this correctly. Let me move our faces. You touch a stone object of medium size or smaller, or a section of stone no more than 5 feet, and form it into any shape that suits your purposes. Yeah. So you can even turn what it says here, a large rock, into a weapon, or make a small passage through a wall. So that's actually a really powerful spell for that one. Again, as her levels are going up, the spell slots are getting smaller and smaller, but the spells are getting more and more powerful. They are really, really something powerful. But that's not all. There's more. This is now where we get into the infusions, where she's able to create some of these magical items on her own. So she's got the Amulet of Health, the Ring of Protection, Bag of Holding, Cloak of Elvenkind, Eyes of an Eagle, her boot of winding path, meaning that any path that, regardless of what impediment is there, she can get through without a problem. She's got the helm of awareness. Her half plate has been infused with enhanced defense, which is why she has the armor class of 19. Her dagger is a returning weapon. So she could throw the dagger and then whoosh, get it to return back to her.
Benoit finally gets her boomerang.
Yes. She's got a wand for enhanced arcane focus, and a signet ring, that spell refueling ring, and a mind sharpener. Yeah, so she's got a lot of things on her. Now, she would not be wearing all of these things all at once. For sure not. And again, this is about what your DM will and will not allow. Your DM is basically the referee. They're going to tell you, no, that's traveling. No, you gotta, that's, yeah, foul, whatever. Obviously, I don't watch a lot of sports either.
They kind of guide the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, you'll also notice over here, there are a lot of D's, meaning disadvantage. Because Elizabeth is in half plate armor, she would be very noisy. So she would not do well on stealth. So disadvantage means that you roll twice, and whichever your lowest score is, that's the one that you have to go with. So she would be very noisy. She would not be able to sneak up on you to be able to use sleight of hand. She's not going to do any stop, drop, and rolls. And she's not going to do any handstands in half plate armor, I should say, half plate armor. All right. But as you can see, she don't need to, because she's strong as heck. So mama don't need to. Now, I just took a very long time to explain my Elizabeth I character. But again, as you can see, it is an incredible character, and I would love to play this character. And
I can tell.
Yes, so I might have to make some changes to Johanna Boyenga. Johanna Boyenga. Okay, quick note: if I haven't said this before, I name my characters after actors. And so Johanna Boyenga is after John Boyenga. But it is the character that I have waiting in the, what do you call that part of the stage where the actors wait?
Waiting in the wings?
Yes, thank you. Waiting in the wings. I'm so good. Waiting in the wings, just in case one of my other two characters in play happens to die. Okay, sorry about that. That was a lot of talking.
That's all right.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, hold on. I'm going to open this up for you, Nate. All right. Whenever you're ready, brother.
Cool. Okay. So, with your, it's interesting you note the celestial influence for your Queen Elizabeth. I went with something similar here.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Oh, for Christ's sake. Here we go. That's what we're looking for. All right. So Queen Elizabeth I, I decided to make her a divine soul sorcerer. With sorcerers, the source of their magic is someone in their lineage. With wizards, they study their spell books. Right? With artificers, they craft. With clerics, they pray. Clerics and paladins, they pray to their gods. With druids, their magic is nature-based. With sorcerers, they are they're lucky. So the divine soul sorcerer, someone in her lineage was descended from the gods.
Okay.
So sorcerers also get some interesting mechanical stuff called meta magic.
Mm.
Because wizards can cast a whole bunch of spells, sorcerers are pretty good at casting a couple of spells in interesting ways. They can do some things with the way they cast their spells that some other classes can't. Um, with the Divine Soul Sorcerer, she also gets to borrow from the cleric spell list a little bit because divine influence. Racially, I thought I thought it made sense to make her a high half elf, going with that charisma bonus that you talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I gave her the courtier background, um, and I went with the standard array. I went with with the standard array for both Lincoln and Gloriana for this way around, just to try it out. And it seems like I also had to make her level 20 because 44 years on the throne.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So mechanically, I don't think I added it on this sheet, but mechanically, sorcerers can their meta magic, they can sort of affect how their actions go. So with a I should have put this onto the sheet because otherwise it's a little bit easier to explain. But there are variations. There's casting the spell normally, where you have its normal effects. Casting Shatter, which is basically a loud noise happens. Everybody in that area has to make a Constitution save. Whoever fails takes 3d8 thunder damage. Stuff like that. With the sorcerer meta magic option of empowered spell, sorcerers can spend what they call sorcery points. They're an additional resource to do some extra funky stuff with that spell. Like with empowered spell, if two of those d8s wind up rolling ones, where you're not going to have a lot of damage inflicted, you can spend a couple sorcery points, cast it as an empowered spell, and re-roll that damage to maybe get some higher numbers. Nice. So there's some interesting workarounds that sorcerers can get to do. With her, I chose to add the Quicken, Heighten, and Twin meta magics. With a twin spell, you can basically cast firebolt, like cast 2 firebolts.
Okay.
Firebolts, not fireballs. Anything. Fireball is a different thing. Fireball is a 3rd level spell that forces a dexterity saving throw. So anything that forces a saving throw cannot be twinned. It has to be a single target thing. Anyway, that's enough mechanical stuff. The stuff about the Divine Soul Sorcerer that I've found intriguing, that I've wanted to play before, that I also feel is thematically appropriate for Queen Elizabeth. Starting at 1st level, Divine Power guards your destiny. If you fail a saving throw or miss with an attack roll, you can roll 2d4 and add it to the total, possibly changing the outcome. She was lucky in a lot of cases. She was very powerful.
Yes.
She was very shrewd. She was also very lucky.
Yeah.
She did not bring that storm that crashed the Spanish Armada, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a bit of luck with certain things that she did.
She was very good at picking administrators and advisors that would help her. And that's actually where I sort of changed her courtier background a little bit. I owe my life to my advisors and agents. The
Yeah.
amount of assassination attempts
Oh my
on
God.
her that were
Yes.
foiled,
Yes.
it's nuts,
It
right? Like,
really is. It really is.
fabulously interesting.
Oh my God. Yeah, because at one point, my understanding is that the Pope declared that because she was illegitimate, the people of England did not have to obey her. So basically, he basically the Pope at that time, I don't even know who it was basically like, if she gets hurt, who's to say it wasn't just an accident, kind of thing.
You want to overthrow the government? Go ahead.
Right.
Nobody overthrow the government.
Yeah.
Please, no one overthrow the government.
Right.
Please.
Please don't.
Thank you.
Please don't. But yeah, that's basically what the Pope did at that time, was just like, yeah, go for it.
Other stuff. Starting at 6th level, the divine energy coursing through you can empower healing spells. So she gets access to healing spells through the cleric spell list. So she can do healing word, mass healing word, cure wounds, stuff like that. A lot of, not just healing, but clerics get a lot of other cool stuff. And I picked some cleric spells. I don't think I finished her spells, sorry, but
it's okay.
She can also, as a divine soul sorcerer, whenever you or an ally within 5 feet of you rolls dice to determine the number of hit points a spell restores, you can spend 1 sorcery point to re-roll any number of those dice once, provided you aren't incapacitated. You can use it once per turn.
Okay.
So that could be something helpful in combat. But combat is its own special set of circumstances,
yes,
right?
It is.
There's some other stuff. At 14th level, she can grow wings.
Okay.
So kind of like how our draconic sorcerer in our circus campaign can now fly. She now has the ability to grow wings. Interesting, though, the affinity you choose for your divine magic feature, so neutral, lawful, neutral, good, or evil, determines the appearance of the spectral wings. Eagle wings for good or law, bat wings for evil or chaos, and dragonfly wings for neutrality.
Okay.
I decided to give her eagle wings at 14th. At 14th level. They last until you're incapacitated, you die, or you dismiss them as a bonus action. So basically, you can fly as much as you want until you dismiss it. At 18th level, you gain the ability to overcome grievous injuries. As a bonus action, when you have fewer than half your hit points remaining, you can regain a number of hit points equal to half your hit point maximum.
Oh, wow.
She hung in there.
Yeah.
Right? She was in her 60s, late 60s or 70s when she died?
Early 70s.
For the 1600s.
Yeah.
Like,
because she was well, actually, okay, that is true. I think she was mid to late 20s.
When she assumed the throne?
Yeah.
So, I mean, high constitution score, let's say that.
Yeah.
Spells, she can borrow from the cleric spell list. I'm kind of partial to these sorcerer cantrips. Here I like Mage Hand, Prestidigitation, Minor Illusion, Frostbite in case she wants to freeze a fool. Absorb elements, elementa, that's a typo. Detect magic, healing word, bless, banishment, wall of fire, spirit guardians, teleport, dominate monster, wish, meteor swarm. Spells are fun. With clerics, wizards, and artificers, though, they can prepare a new set of spells every day. With sorcerers, like, you're basically locked in until you gain a level. You can switch a spell out for a different one, and learn new ones if the level allows you to.
Yeah.
Thematically, she just seemed to make sense to me as a divine soul sorcerer because of the divine right, and she was fighting for what she viewed as her divine right
Yes.
against authorities at the time, particularly being a woman doing that.
That's where I have some questions, and I'm not a historian, but there were some very strong female queens at that
Yes.
time. Because I just recently learned this. I didn't know that Catherine had gone to a battle while she was pregnant because Henry was somewhere else.
That I did.
But
Yeah.
then again, Catherine came from Isabella.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I think part of it was that they doubted her because she was female, but I think the other part that they doubted about her was because Anne Boleyn was her mother.
Mm-hmm.
If she had been Queen Catherine's or any of the other queens after Boleyn child, I think that there may have been a little bit less pressure on her to prove that she was worthy.
Mm.
Well, one other exception, his second to last wife, because she was also tried for treason.
Maxed her charisma,
Yeah.
but was able to get both her dexterity and her constitution up okay.
Yeah.
And her constitution and charisma saving throws would be pretty pretty good because she's able to inspire the people with her charisma, and she's able to hang in there for as long as she can, withstanding all sorts of withstanding all comers. She also, I thought, some historians apparently have judged her as fairly jealous and temperamental.
Yeah.
Which from a role play standpoint is intriguing to me.
Yeah. I think, yes, wasn't she like jealous about one of her supposed lovers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, jealous of her cousin too, like Mary Queen of Scots.
I'd also be a little bit jealous of her too, just reading about Mary. Not saying that Mary had a charmed life, but compared to Queen Mary and also Elizabeth, she had a slightly better life and platform compared to them.
She got to marry a king, right? She got to marry
but she also got to rule,
France.
Right?
Yes.
But she also got to rule on her own too, and there was no question of who her throne was going to go through to, and all this other stuff. So, not saying that she had the best of lives, but she had a little bit, maybe that much better than the other two.
Un peu.
Yeah.
And that is my if I may confess, my fairly quick build of Queen Elizabeth I.
Again, we're supposed to be doing this for fun and having a fun time with this. And also, as I explained to someone else, it's a way of kind of dealing with and talking about some things that are happening now. It helps me because it's something to look forward to, and also it's kind of like while we were talking about this and creating these characters, I started thinking about if I did create a Ted Cruz character, I feel a little bit more comfortable now that we've done this in creating that character that I feel would not be hostile from my standpoint, kind of thing. So this is a healing This is a therapeutic D&D.
I'm
D&D
glad. Okay.
to unite us all. All right. So, President Abraham Lincoln. So, this is the Queen Elizabeth one. So, before I get to Abraham Lincoln, I had to think about what he was going to be. And so, Lincoln really went into politics because he was like, we have to protect everyone. There is no reason, for him, from what I can gather, from what I've read and understood, he was about all humanity deserves respect. There should not be any type of situation where someone is forced into servitude where there is no reprieve at all, kind of thing. And so my Abraham Lincoln for this one, drum roll please, is an Aasimar paladin. Yes. So the Aasimar, I've played that before with I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg character.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. Oh no, an Aasimar bard. Sorry, I thought it was paladin. He is a bard.
He's a bard.
He's a bard.
Okay.
Correction right there. All right. So why did Reagan make him a bard? It was actually how he won the presidency. If you really look at his political career, he was only in the federal government for 2 years.
2 years.
Left for like something like 6 years, and then was like, no, I'm coming back in. So to me, that felt Stacey Abrams level.
Praise be. Praise be.
Right. It felt like, that's how it felt to me. It felt like for him to come back and be like, I'm becoming president, and to win that presidency not once, but twice, and also fight or also be president during one of the bloodiest wars of American history, that is a bard. Okay. And a bard is coming from their strength of, as you can see here, the charisma. He had to be straight up charismatic. This is truly a person who was in poverty, had to school himself, and then got an education and was all about, no, we're working to make life better. Now, I will admit to you, there are times when you're working with the bard character, there are some things that came up with vampires and the undead. And if you remember, there was a book and a movie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so there were times I was tempted to go, vampire?
I was gonna talk about that. Yeah. I mean,
tempted to do that, but I said no, break-in.
An Oath of Vengeance paladin who like kills vampires with a giant axe.
Right. I was like, no, Reagan, no, stick with reality as you create a D&D character. So that's where I went with him. You see that his charisma is high, and then after that is his dexterity and his constitution. He's got an armor class of 16, which is pretty good. And he's got an initiative of +4. So odds are, if he had to roll for a battle, he's not maybe the first person to go in, but he's one of the beginning people to go in. With him, he's got disadvantage on acrobatics and athletics, and that is because he has, if I'm not mistaken, the leather and the shield. That's what's helping his armor class right there, is that shield and the studded leather. His spells are not as big as Elizabeth, but they're still pretty good. So he can send a message to others. So if he's moving ahead where he's, scouting or something, he could send a message to the rest of his party. Spare the dying. Of course, he's going to want to make sure that everybody that's with him is safe. Vicious Mockery is one of those cantrips that as a bard, you kind of want them to have. It's kind of a powerful cantrip. So I'm going to move our faces for a second and pull that up. I think we've talked about this before, but you unleash a string of insults with enchantment at a creature. And if the target can hear you, it doesn't need to understand you. It has to succeed on a wisdom save and takes a 1d4 psychic damage and have disadvantage on the next roll.
The next attack roll, which is
okay.
So so the next time, like if it's about to hit you and you, if you're facing it and you do Vicious Mockery, your father smelled of elderberries. Then if he fails that wisdom save, he takes that 1d4 damage, and then the attack against you, presumably, if the DM chooses to attack you, is made with disadvantage.
Yeah. Now, as you can see, as you go up the levels, it increases. So with this one, it's a wisdom save of 18, which odds are you may not make that. It depends on your wisdom modifier, which I'll show that to you all very quickly. And you can see at his level, he has 3d4 that he can roll. So wisdom, this is wisdom and that's your modifier. So as you can see, I would have to roll a straight 18 to be able to save myself. Now, again, that depends on your DM. For our DM, she believes that if you roll at exactly an 18, then you're okay. But again, your DM might say, okay, you rolled an 18. That's not a save. You have to roll higher. I guess it really does depend on the DM.
I just rolled a 5.
All right. So what level did I make him? I forgot about that. Level 14
looks like. Yep.
Okay. Now, again, I've been basing the levels that I put these characters at based on their work in the federal government. But in the case of Queen Elizabeth I, their time as that monarch. With Abraham Lincoln, it did not make any sense to me to make him a level 6. That seemed disrespectful. So I added in his time with other positions and things like that. Yeah, it just didn't make any sense to me. All right, so with his spells, it's not the biggest, but he's got heroism, which he can help others in his party. That's what that heart there kind of means. It means that it helps others in your party, enhance ability, protection from good and evil. Sleep, he can actually put others to sleep. So like if you're in this huge battle and you've got all these attackers coming to you, you can put the ones that are in a 90-foot area to sleep so that it gives your team time to figure out what to do next. This one, Bestow Curse, I don't remember choosing this one, but let's take a look at it.
It's a good one. Yeah.
You touch a creature and that creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become cursed for the duration of the spell. So you choose the nature of the curse from the following options. While cursed, the target has disadvantage. While cursed, the target must make a wisdom saving throw. Or while cursed, your attacks and spells deal an extra 1d8 necrotic damage. All right. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a debuff, as I understand it. That's a term. Like if a buff would be like heroism, buffing your party up, and a debuff would be making the enemies do worse.
Okay. Because he is an ASMR, he is part of a celestial being. So with that comes daylight, where he is able to produce this light within a 60-foot range. And again, as he goes up in his level, his abilities also go up. Because you can see that the saving throws go very high, and 18 is pretty high. Polymorph was actually a kind of cool one that I actually really liked. You could transform a creature that you see into a new form. And if they're unwilling to change, meaning it's an enemy or something like that, they again have to do that saving throw. So let's say, for example, you're in a battle and you're in a battle with an orc. You can transform that orc into something that might be a little bit easier for you to deal with than this massive orc coming at you. All right, hold monster, where you're paralyzed. Again, a lot of his things that he's doing are like to control the chaos that's coming at them or to protect the team. And that to me, again, seemed like it really would work very well for this particular character. As you can probably also see, we're now at 7th level in spells. Whereas my Queen Elizabeth I, she had 5 levels in spells. But even with those 5 levels, she had something like 24 spells, not even including some of the other things that she could do. He's got 7 levels of spells. But again, those slots kind of go down. So that kind of plays with, yeah, you've got some really strong spells, but you can only use this higher level this one time here. And I don't know, I guess as he goes up his level, he might open up some more spell slots.
Yes. Okay. So the artificer is not everybody is. There are classes that are full casters, meaning they can go all the way from 1st to 9th level. There are classes that are half casters, which can only go up to 5th level.
Okay.
Like paladins, for example, are half casters. Arcane tricksters, rangers, eldritch knights, which are a fighter subclass, they're 1/3 casters, so they only go up to 4th level. Actually, no, rangers, I think rangers go up to 5th. With artificers, they are a 2/3 caster, so it looks like they only go up to 5th.
Okay.
They might even, yeah. So there's ways to sort of balance the game, I guess. Yeah.
And that's basically what you're looking at, is to kind of balance it out, because if you did have someone that was at 7th level and they were just able to throw out at as many spells as they wanted to, you have no challenge in the game. And that's the other thing that has to happen. There has to be those challenges that come up. Otherwise, it's not a fun game and you're bored out of your freaking mind. And you really only need like a party of 1 because you create this super character. So I like to think of it sort of like as the X-Men. Yeah, Wolverine is a strong dude, but also Wolverine can get his tail kicked. So he's going to need Storm to come in, and Storm's going to come in. But again, Storm can also get her tail kicked. So then you need Cyclops. So you need the X-Men to work together, because it's a team effort to be able to fight those enemies.
That's the party.
Yes, it is a party. So you want to lead it? All right.
Are we ready for?
Yeah.
Okay. Here is my Abraham Lincoln. I went a little bit loosey-goosey with this. I finished this like 10 minutes before we hopped on.
Okay.
It was quick. What I focused on was uh, his past as a wrestler.
Ooh, yeah.
He was a wrestler. Like he
Yes, he
was
was.
entered into the American Wrestling Hall of Fame, apparently. Um, like he went undefeated for a long time as a younger man. So I built him as a fighter, built around wrestling, being able to grapple someone
Yeah.
and hold them so they can't move, and then beat them with a hammer that may be shaped like a judge's gavel.
Okay, there you go.
So
Or it could be Milmure.
this is a little on the goofy side,
Okay.
I might say, because I too see him as more bard-like
Mhm.
than fightery, because Lincoln was not a soldier.
No. Actually, wait, no, he was in
Was
the
he?
military. Yes, he
Really?
was. He was in the military.
Okay.
He
I
was.
stand corrected.
Yeah. I too, I had to do a little research.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah,
So,
he was in the militia, I want to
okay.
say. He wasn't, um, hmm. He wasn't sort of like Churchill was like, oh, military all the time kind of thing. I
Hmm.
think he mostly did it because that was a way to make money and move
Hmm.
up in position. Because again, he did come from a very impoverished background.
Hmm. That's actually where I wanted to come from a little bit
Okay.
here. I made his background Outlander,
Okay.
because he hailed from what could be considered at that time the sticks,
Yeah.
right? Because he grew up in Indiana,
Yeah.
and uh, and uh, and took office out in Illinois in the West, right?
Yeah.
Um, and he was one. Have you ever seen the movie Young Mr. Lincoln?
No.
It's a fun black and white. I think it was like maybe 1947, 1948.
Okay.
It's about Lincoln as a young lawyer. Um, and I remembered a scene from that, him playing one of those mouth harps, um, as an Outlander. You can be proficient with one musical instrument.
Cool.
So I decided to make him proficient in the mouth harp,
There you
and
go.
the party would just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
I imagined role play. I would be going like going in the background as some interactions would be going on. So just pulling back a little bit, fighter wise, I decided to make him also level 14 because
Mhm.
he was in government service, in government office for about approximately 14 years.
Yeah.
And I decided to build him so that he would be as effective as possible as a grappler character. As a variant human, you can take an extra credit thing called a feat at first level that allows you to do some extra fun stuff.
Yeah.
With the prodigy feat, for example, that allows you to get expertise,
Mm.
meaning your proficiency bonus is doubled
Ooh.
for a particular skill check. So, because when you decide to grapple somebody, you roll a you roll an athletics check against somebody's acrobatics or against your enemy's acrobatics or athletics checks, with expertise. He gets a plus 15 to athletics.
Okay.
So he would be able to. So I rolled a nat 20, so he would get a 35 on that athletics check. So
Nice.
he would be able to grapple that enemy.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Not unlike how how the latter parts of the war essentially became a war of attrition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
It really did. Oh my
after
gosh, yeah.
after they checked Lee's drive at Gettysburg, the South never regained the initiative. Grant, uh, victory after victory out west, but it was a slog, right?
Yeah.
Like the Battle of the Wilderness, like all that stuff.
Well, the
So
interesting thing about the Civil War versus, like, okay, let's say the American Revolution. With the American Revolution, you have a party that's coming to a land they're not as familiar with,
yeah,
right? So you have that advantage. But in the Civil War, you have two parties that are both familiar with that land. So now it's not about using the land against them. Now it's about wit against wit, or, trying to outsmart each other.
it's funny you say maneuver, because the battle master fighter,
Uh-huh.
their main gimmick is maneuvers that they can do,
Okay.
just like special moves. So with a grappling strike, for example, they can attempt to make a grapple as a bonus action by spending a one of 5 superiority dice. They can roll that and add that to the total for a particular attack. With a tripping attack, you can knock somebody over. Knocking people prone means that they'd have to spend about half their movement. They'd have to spend half their movement to get back up, meaning that they would, like if you were in front of me and I knocked you over, or the enemy was in front of me, rather, not you. I'm not attacking you.
It's okay. I knew
Um,
that you meant I was your enemy, and I take that. I take I will fight you as soon as this snow melts.
You start grappling. I'm built for it. Like, anyway, so yeah, so some weird combat stuff.
Okay.
But if you knock somebody prone, they got to spend half their movement to get back up, meaning they can't move as far away from you if they wanted to go attack your friends, right? So this is a way to debuff somebody without magic.
Okay.
Precision attack. You can make a very surgical, damaging attack. You can attempt to frighten someone with a menacing attack. If someone attacks you and they miss, you can counterattack with a riposte. Tempest is a battle master, actually, so he's got some of these maneuvers. And so I thought that would be an interesting thing to try with Lincoln, as opposed to, without focusing as much on the leadership and role play that he exhibited in the war, because he was a statesman, right? He's one of our greatest. Arguably. But I thought it would be an interesting exercise to sort of take one particular juicy detail from earlier in his past and then build on that to maybe make a character with some of the same flavor, right? He's got the frontier lawyer, possibly. He loves dirty jokes.
Who doesn't?
Have you ever watched the movie Lincoln with that Spielberg directed, the Daniel Day-Lewis?
I did not see that movie. For me to get into big movies like that, I have to be in the mood for it, kind of thing. And I just never got into the mood for it. I'm sure it's a fantastic movie.
There's a Day-Lewis is Day-Lewis, right? Oh, yeah. But one particular story that he as Lincoln tells in that is so funny to me, and it's it's at the perfect moment for a scene. You can cut this out later if you want, but
oh no, it stays in.
It's staying in. All right. we're going supersize on this one.
All right.
So I'm probably going to miss some of the details, but Lincoln is depicted in the film as with he and his war council essentially waiting for news of how an attack is going in order to give heart to the people who are waiting there with him. He tells a story. He tells a story about Revolutionary War General Ethan Allen, who was visiting the British after the war, and they were having dinner, and he found he needed to use the privy, and so he got up and went to the toilet and saw that there was a portrait of George Washington in the privy. And Allen did his business, did what he come to do, as Lincoln says in the movie, and then walks back, does not comment on the portrait, and the British guests ask him, "So, General, what did you think of that portrait in the privy? Do you not think that it is a very appropriate place for such an image?" And Allen says, "Indeed, sir. I think it's a very appropriate place for just that very portrait." And the British are surprised. They're shocked, of course, because they intended to make fun of Ethan Allen, the visiting American. And Allen says, "Indeed, it should be a perfect place for it, for nothing can make an Englishman shit quicker than the sight of General George Washington." And the room loves it, of course. Like they're waiting for the telegraph message. It's a great laugh. And then Day-Lewis, of course, as Lincoln, is like he's got his legs crossed and he's laughing again. "I love that story." It's
a good story.
It's a good story, right?
That is a good story.
Good stuff.
Make him shit faster than General Washington. Oh my gosh, that is brilliant.
So anyway, dirty sense of humor, like frontier sense of humor, I guess, too.
Well, they didn't have Netflix and Twitter at that time, so they had to entertain themselves some way.
Yeah. So that's how I decided to build Lincoln.
All right. So yeah, this was definitely a supersized version of this, but it actually did need to be, because again, wanting to make sure that we were considering that there are some people that are very new to D&D who have never done D&D before. I was thinking of my mom, because my mom, I go to her house every other Sunday to do laundry. And so she hears some of our D&D campaign. And so I had to think
She's
about,
a little confused.
She is a little confused. So I wanted to make sure that I was thinking about her, but also at the same time, I wanted to acknowledge that, again, I am not an expert at this. And we also dealt with a class that, oh my goodness, that is a complicated class. Artificer. Ooh, man, whoever thought that up? Bravo.
Somebody who wanted to give a particular kind of player a lot of stuff to do, right? Ways to keep them busy.
Oh yeah, that was very much made for a player. I imagine someone like Liz, who's our DM for our second campaign. That seems like a character that would
It's crunchy.
She would sink her teeth into that one. Yeah, her or Catherine. Yeah, definitely. All right. So thank you all so very much for joining us for this one. I will announce later who our next two politicians or heads of states will be. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.